Good morning. This is not my meeting. This is a meeting about the Poole grants, and you'll hear from some students. But I want to tell you very briefly about these two grants that we've had over the years, and they're two programs that I'm really proud of because they are named in honor of two amazing Taft graduates who I think left a legacy of service that we're still carrying today. Let me tell you about those quickly, and I just would say to you, if you're at all interested, don't hesitate. Talk to me, talk to Mrs. Frew, or talk to any of the students that were recipients of these grants. But I start with Bob Poole, and I really believe that Bob Poole, a man I never knew, was a great Taftian, and I would argue even that, more than that, a great American. He graduated from Taft in 1950. And then after graduating from Yale and serving in the Army, he came back to Taft to teach, and he also coached football, and he was beloved as a faculty member. I still meet alumni who talk about him in his years from 1956 to 62. And after being here, and partly because of his passion for ecology and conservation and education and wildlife conservation, he devoted his life to those themes. And he had joined the Peace Corps, the original Peace Corps, of course, initiated by President Kennedy. And he ended up in Africa, and there he, I think, began a legacy that was a profound one. He became one of the leading conservationists in the world, and he's the director of the African Wildlife Leadership Foundation, which did incredible work and for many years. And he was a member of many other organizations. He was dynamic. He was an effective leader. And then when he was tragically killed in a car accident there, he had already established a legacy of being a visionary leader and conservationist. And so many Taft's family and friend stepped forward with some funds. And what they did was simply create a fund in which any student can apply. And if you have an interest in this, it was really to start or to encourage leadership and service in the area of conservation, but it's been more broadly than that, and there's been other areas. And so we have had for decades Poole grant recipients go literally around the globe and do incredible service work in areas like conservation and others. And the second one is related, and it's called the Meg Page Fellowship. Meg Page graduated in 1974. She was an amazing woman. I knew her a little bit. She was a very good friend of Mr. Frew. She was vital, brilliant, lively, animated, energetic. She went on to a successful business career, and tragically she was diagnosed with cancer. But even as she battled the disease, it was amazing. She threw her heart and her energy into service in the medical field, serving on boards, raising money, and it was typical of her. She was a fighter, and she was always thinking of others. And when she died, she left money to the school to establish a fund which would support students who wanted to do volunteer work summers in anywhere related to the medical field, doing research, attending conferences, working at a hospital, and so on. So that at the end, I think she was thinking of others and thinking of service. Her life was characterized by great generosity and service. I'm still in touch with her mother, who's an amazing woman. And, I think for her and those who are involved in setting up this fellowship, the letters they've received from Taft students is really inspiring. So these are two different areas of fellowship in which you can get involved. Mrs. Frew will be sending out applications, information. If you have any interest, reach out to her. I will just make a quick comment on it. We have what we call a high-class problem. That is, inevitably, there are more students who would like to do these grants than we have funding for, so you might not receive complete funding. I do know as a committee they're really interested in sort of what I would call big bang for the buck projects. That is, where the cost associated is relatively low and that the service provided is really high. The only requirement for these, the Page and the Poole grants are two. First, that it's an area of service and that you serve others, and then secondly, you bring back your learning and your experience in some way to inspire others at Taft. And so if you have any interest, please see me or Mrs. Frew. They are two amazing opportunities for you. Not every school has an opportunity where you can get a great idea, have a dream about serving, and then be funded in order to do that. And so you'll hear today about some of those experiences, and I hope they inspire you. So many thanks.
Oh, wow. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Emma, and today I'm going to talk to you about my experience last summer in Costa Rica. Before I start, I'd like to thank the Poole Grant Committee for giving me this opportunity. With the help of the Poole Grant, I traveled to Nosara, Costa Rica, and I volunteered for a nonprofit organization called Cebu Sanctuary. Cebu is a rescue and rehabilitation program for injured and orphaned monkeys, and it's run by a retired couple from Florida named Steve and Vicki Cohen. The monkeys that are being taken care of have been injured from human encroachment on their habitat, and most of them have actually been electrocuted by uninsulated power lines. When I volunteered for Cebu, I mostly did hands-on work like cleaning cages, feeding the monkeys, and gathering food. But for a final project, I made a video. It's a short documentary just to show like the daily lives of Cebu and what they do. And that's what I'm going to show you all today. The video will give you a glimpse into why they started Cebu and the cause of why the monkeys are getting injured. Some of the images may be a little bit graphic, but I hope the video makes an impression on you guys and encourages you to volunteer. Thanks.
Costa Rica is a beautiful country that has amazing beaches and rainforests that lure thousands of tourists every year. The tourism in Costa Rica is expanding, but the wildlife is suffering. The new developments cause numerous power lines to go up, and monkeys are getting killed and electrocuted by uninsulated power lines. Monkeys will be swinging in the jungle and jump onto a power line, thinking it's a branch. They are electrocuted instantly, their hands and feet burned shut, unable to move. Some mothers are electrocuted and killed, leaving their babies orphaned and with severe burns. Cebu Sanctuary in Osara, Costa Rica, run by Steve and Vicky, rescues the injured wildlife and rehabilitates them until they are ready to be released back into the wild.
Our primary rehabilitation and release program. We focus on prevention and education, and we also do rescues when needed. It's full-time, it's 7 days a week.
Steve and Vicky build habitats for the monkeys to live in, and they even buy and grow their own food. They gather different leaves for the monkeys to eat. They change the water, clean the sheets, and prepare their food.
And we try to vary with different treats, like I got the apples and I have a little bit of peanut butter. We make a hole in the apple and put that in, or little grapes. Very, very intelligent, right underneath the great apes as far as problem solving. They have all the same emotions. They feel sadness, or they feel happy, and they feel affection, and they feel resentment and jealousy. This is Katie, and that's Katie's baby. It's 7 months old. And the morning she had the baby, I was in the bathroom. I looked out the window, and there is Katie going, I want my baby back, I want my baby back. It still had the umbilical cord, and here another wild female had stolen the baby and is holding it and wouldn't give it back. So when I saw that, I go, oh, help, get the ladder, get the ladder. So we got the ladder, we climbed up, and I said, Katie, venga, venga, and we got the baby back.
And he's in protective custody. He's only here so that he won't be stolen and beaten up by wild females.
Although their primary focus is monkeys, Steve and Vicky also take care of coatimundis, possums, birds, and pretty much any indigenous animal that needs their help. They even work with the electrical companies to try and make the power lines safe. With no government funding, most of what Steve and Vicky have accomplished has come out of their pockets, with help from donations and educational visits.
And that helps buy the food, the medicines, helps buy the fencing for the habitats, and just all the laundry detergent, everything. There's so much, and all the food that we have to prepare and buy.
Why do people come here? They come here for nature. People come here for this.
So that's just a little bit of what I did there and what they do, and it's for a really good cause, and it's a lot of fun, and I'll post the link to news if anybody else is interested, or if anybody has any questions, just let me know. Now Julian's going to talk to you about his experience. Thanks, guys.
Good morning. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Julian White, and I'm a senior here. I'm here today to talk about the Poole grant, as well as my specific community service program this summer. I went to Panama, where I was involved in a 3-week community service and language immersion trip through a company called GlobalWorks. And GlobalWorks offers many community service projects from Beijing to Costa Rica, but I ultimately decided to go to Panama. While in part this was because I wanted to experience a Spanish-speaking country so that my 3 years of taking Spanish could actually mean something in the real world, but I also wanted to work in a developing country where I fully believed I could make the biggest impact. For those reasons, the program in Panama was the best fit. So in late July, after a 7-hour flight to Panama, we arrived in the capital, named Panama City, where I met the group I would be living with for the next 3 years. Our first night and every night in between traveling across the country was spent in a small hostel. The hostel had 5 rooms and 2 bathrooms, which had to accommodate all 18 of us. While I can elaborate how difficult those living conditions were for me, I believe that the service aspect of the trip will be more interesting. Our first service project was at an orphanage, which was located about an hour outside the city. We spent the entire day with kids and organized several activities such as arts and crafts, and we played soccer. The children showed us around the orphanage. They taught us their daily routines, and this proved to be extremely rewarding because it was a great way for me to get used to the language. I found myself able to communicate with most of the children, and it was an amazing experience. The time we spent in the city, usually between large portions of our trip, was for exploring, including visiting the canal, as well as bike trips around Casco Viejo, which was the old city across from the main city. Everything about the city was very new to me, but it was also quite familiar. The city was right on the ocean, so it kind of reminded me of Manhattan. However, the buildings were very different, having a very interesting architectural style with lots of colors. We didn't spend too much time in the city, nor were we involved with many projects in the city, so most of our time was spent in the numerous locations around the country that weren't innately touristy. So for the first major part of the trip, we traveled to the Kuna Islands on the Atlantic side of the country. And after several hours through winding mountains and several boat rides later, we made it to the island where we'd be spending for almost a week. The best part of this island, that it was a private island for just our group, and it was beautiful. So our service projects during this portion of the trip took place at the main island home to the indigenous people of the Kuna. So that's the main island that they lived on. This was one of the most eye-opening parts of my experience. Just seeing how these people lived in their day-to-day lives. All the houses were made of reeds, the roads were dirt, and because we were in the rainy season, all the paths were flooded. On the island, we were part of several construction projects, such as building bathrooms right here. We also spent time at the school where we gave English lessons to many of the students. We spent several days going between different islands in the Kuna territory. After our time, here's a group of the Kuna kids. So after our time spent on the island, we moved to the next part of the trip, which was dedicated to the homestay experience. Our homestay was in a small community 5 hours away from the city called San Juan. This is also the bulk of our service. We constructed new fences for the school, dug several holes to install a septic tank unit. We also spent even more time at a school putting together many activities, including talent shows and other musical performances. So this is my homestay home, and it was interesting. There was no running water. It was 95 degrees at all times, and I worked for 4 hours a day. So it was tough. While this was the most work during the entire experience, this is the part that I will miss the most mostly because I'm missing my host mom who made amazing food. That's one of my host brothers. This is us installing the septic tank. So the final part of the trip was mostly dedicated to exploration of other parts of the country. We traveled to the Pacific coast this time, where we spent time living right on the coast, right in these little huts, and we would fall asleep and listen to the ocean. we were involved in one major project while we were here, and it was probably the biggest one of the trip. So in short, the goal was to move a house. The house had a dirt floor, and it had to be moved into a concrete flooring, and because of our limited resources, we had to reuse all of the wood, which was rotting and infested with scorpions. Because of it, we had to go to the forest. We had cut down trees. Those logs right there came from the forest behind there. And it was hard because we had to conserve every single piece, and there was just so much stuff, and it was really sad to see, but I'm glad that I was part of this experience. So overall, this experience in Panama has been very significant to my life. Not only was I able to serve others, I was also able to improve my Spanish, learn about a beautiful country and culture, and recognize my own privilege as a Taft student. Because this trip was only 3 weeks long, I have so many more stories and experiences that I would love to share. So if you're interested in my personal experience or the program Global Works, which I recommend if you want to apply for the Poole grant, or any other information to apply to the Poole grant, please email me, Julian White, and I'll be happy to share with you. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Tony. Last summer, Viet, Harry, and I used our program and went to an exotic country, China, for volunteering service. Actually, I'm from China, and the project was only 80 miles away from my home. However, the difference of 80 miles is as dramatic as we could imagine. We participated in a charity program operated by Heifer International, a nonprofit organization based in America to eradicate poverty and hunger. Heifer distributes animals to families in need around the world as a means of providing self-sufficiency. Our job was to interview local villagers in one of the impoverished villages called Daling Village, which, as I mentioned, is just 80 miles outside Beijing. Although China's economy is booming throughout the last decades, unfortunately, the per capita income in certain areas is still very low. In fact, the average annual family income in Daling Village was equivalent to only $120. The village was completely devastated after a disastrous flood in 2010. To make it worse, the government did not put much effort into rebuilding the village since it was only a remote village high up in the mountain. Heifer, on the other hand, recognized the difficult situation faced by villagers and established a program which donated 5 sheep to each family, which would reproduce in order to reestablish the economy for them. What attracts us the most about Heifer is its cornerstone concept of passing on the gift. The concept promotes families that receive the donations to help other families after they overcome their economic difficulties and donate an equivalent amount of goods or money. It leads to more families to receive physical help, but also develops the mental strength for families who participated in the program. Our mission in this program was to interview families who have already received help and help to publicize their land products to more customers. After riding for 5 hours on bumpy roads in this teeny tiny car and enduring multiple leg cramps, we finally arrived at Daling Village and stayed there for 3 days. During our stay in the village, we had the opportunity to communicate with the locals and gained a better understanding of their life. We conducted various interviews, and in doing so, we came to understanding the hardship they were experiencing, from recovering from the recent flood to taking care of their livestock in the harsh winter. In addition, we went on a field trip to the pasture fields to see their goats. These goats are raised in an all-natural environment, as their main food source is grass that grows around the village. With all the information collected from our interviews and the field trip, the 3 of us worked together during the nights to create a presentation covering the benefits of the land. Fun things always happen at night. I remember the place we slept, which had only one bed, belonged to this couple of newlyweds. So right in front of this bed, they hang a gigantic photo of them kissing together. What was more interesting was that their photo is hanging right next to a gigantic portrait of Chairman Mao. So, and at night, I swear it must be the material on the photos. Both photos kind of glowed. So the 3 of us screamed like a little girls the first time we saw it. If you're into haunted house, I guess you should definitely go. We concluded our trip with a meeting in Beijing where we had the opportunity to be interviewed by Philanthropy Times. a local newspaper. The result was a huge success. Our interview made the news, and we heard that recently many buyers from Beijing's like chain restaurants and supermarket owners are buying lamps from the village, which would generate great profit for the people in the village and change their lives for the better. We're very grateful for this unique opportunity that Poole Grant offered us, and we encourage everyone to take part in the program in the future. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Michael, and I'm going to talk about an incredible opportunity I had last summer, thanks to the generosity of the Poole family and the Poole Grant Committee. So I traveled to Montana, which is the state you can see right there, highlighted in red. And we were able to complete various service projects throughout the state. I was with a group of about 12 other students my age, and all the service had an environmental focus, and all of our transportation throughout the state was done via bicycle. So I think that emphasized like the service or the environmental aspects of the service, because we weren't using like a car or a van. And I got to meet some really incredible people throughout the trip. It was a really incredible opportunity for me. So our first service project was located in the Helena Community Garden. They had an unfortunate situation last summer where the owner had broken his leg and they couldn't really prepare the garden for the people to use throughout the summer to grow their plants, their food. So what we did was we completely cleared out all the weeds from the garden so that it was ready to go over the summer. You can see it's completely cleared out of all there were initially weeds and now they're all gone. So we got it completely compared for people to grow all their food throughout the summer. Next, we traveled to the Blackfeet Indian Reservation, where we completed our next service project. There's a pretty unfortunate situation in the reservation. There's above 30% of the people are above the poverty line. So it was pretty tough to see some of the situations that the people faced. It was also very neat. There's about 95% of the people are Native Americans. So it was really great to meet them. And they have a nice system over the summer where they give free and reduced price lunches to the kids. So what we did for one day was we cooked all their foods, and it was really incredible to see the satisfaction that all the kids had gotten when we cooked for them and we had handed them their food. Next, we traveled to Glacier National Park, which is probably one of the most stunning places I've ever seen. On the picture on the right, you can see there's the rivers, the mountains, the trees, snow-capped peaks. It was really, really gorgeous and really stunning. And our first service project in the park was completely removing knapweed from one of the fields in the park. Knapweed is an invasive species that has pretty much taken over the American West. It kills a lot of the vegetation, a lot of the trees in the West. So what our job was to completely remove it from one of the fields and help improve the situation for the vegetation in the park. On the next day, we worked in a campsite to clear about 70 lots of all the trash that visitors to the national park had left. We cleaned up the fireplaces and we cleaned trash from throughout the campsites. Yeah, there's a picture of me riding the bike on the right. A little over-enthusiastic, I guess. All right, so on the left, you can see it's National Park headquarters. Here we worked in the garden at the headquarters. They have a neat system where they go out throughout the park, collect seeds from various plants throughout the park, and then bring them back to the garden to grow them there and move them back throughout the park to increase all the vegetation in the park. So what we did was take the seeds from the plants throughout the park, then bring them back here, and we began growing them. This is the group at the end of the trip. So overall, this was a really incredible experience for me. I got to meet some really fantastic people. The people in Montana and particularly the American West are so friendly. They were really nice. It was awesome to meet them. Also, I met some really great people in the group. You can see the group over there, and then one of the boys over there. So it was also incredible to serve, particularly the environmental aspects. I think like one of the more important issues that we face right now is the environment and the changes that the environment is undergoing. So I think it was great to be able to serve the environment and improve the situation. Improve the situation in the West. So I hope you all consider potentially applying for a Poole grant or looking into the various service opportunities that we have. We're really fortunate at Taft to have some really special opportunities, and I hope you consider them. Thank you.